August 1942. Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides, now Vanuatu. The morning sun rises over dense tropical forest. Mist lingers above the coral-lined coast as U.S. Navy landing craft cut across Seguin Channel, their wakes glimmering under the early light. On board are men of the newly formed Naval Construction Battalions, the Seabees. Their orders: transform this remote Pacific island into a major Allied base, and do it fast, without revealing its existence to Japanese reconnaissance. The Pacific War has entered a new phase. After the U.S. Marines landed on Guadalcanal on August 7, 1942, the battle for air superiority in the Solomon Islands became critical. The Americans urgently need forward airfields to support the Cactus Air Force, the mixed group of Marine, Navy, and Army Air Force pilots fighting from Henderson Field. But the Japanese Navy's long-range patrols from bases in Rabaul and Bougainville scour the ocean skies daily, searching for signs of American buildup. That's why the U.S. Navy chose Espiritu Santo, an island cloaked in thick jungle, nearly 200 miles southeast of Guadalcanal, as the site for a top-secret project. The operation is directed by Admiral William F. Halsey, commander of the South Pacific area, and supervised by Rear Admiral George H. Fort, in charge of base construction. Their goal is clear: build a hidden airfield that can host bombers, fighters, and transport aircraft, but invisible to Japanese eyes. When the Seabees of the 7th Naval Construction Battalion arrive in mid-August, they find an untouched island of mangrove swamps and coconut palms. The tropical heat is relentless. The soil is soggy, and torrential rain turns clearings into pools of mud. Equipment bogs down almost immediately, but the Seabees are used to impossible conditions. Using bulldozers, graders, and dynamite, they begin clearing a section of the island's northern plateau known as Paliculo Bay, while maintaining a natural canopy of trees around the site. The key order, issued directly from Navy headquarters, is secrecy. Every trace of activity must be concealed from the air. They start by cutting only narrow strips at a time, keeping surrounding vegetation intact. Large tarpaulins are stretched across open areas and then layered with palm fronds. The Seabees fashion a network of camouflage netting, reinforced with coconut leaves, bamboo poles, and native vines. When seen from above, the result looks like an unbroken canopy of forest. Nearby, Marine Corps Air Group 11, MAG-11, begins to move in, led by Lieutenant Colonel Christian F. Schilt, a Medal of Honor recipient from Nicaragua in the 1920s. His unit will soon operate F-4F Wildcats and SBD Dauntless dive bombers from the concealed runway. Japanese aerial reconnaissance from Rabaul begins scanning Espiritu Santo within weeks of the Guadalcanal invasion. Pilots flying Mitsubishi G-4M Betty bombers, modified for long-range photo missions, sweep the area. But despite frequent flyovers, the island shows no visible sign of construction. From the air, it appears only as dense jungle. The deception works. Japanese analysts, poring over photographs at 11th Air Fleet headquarters, see nothing but green. No roads, no runways, no warehouses. The location is marked as no activity. Meanwhile, under the canopy, the Seabees work around the clock. Bulldozers move under camouflaged covers. The exhausts are muffled with improvised silencers. Crushed coral, dredged from the nearby lagoon, is packed into the earth to create a firm, all-weather surface. By September, the bomber strip at Turtle Bay, later known as Picoa Airfield, is operational. On September 28, 1942, the first aircraft, a Douglas R-4D transport of the U.S. Navy, touches down on the hidden runway. Within weeks, Marine Air Group 11 relocates part of its squadrons here, including VMF 121, flying F-4F Wildcats under the command of Major Joseph J. Foss, who would soon become one of America's top aces. The Seabees then expand construction toward Paliculo Bay, creating a second airstrip, Bomber Field No. 1, capable of hosting B-17 Flying Fortresses, B-24 Liberators, and PBY Catalina patrol planes, BY late 1942, hundreds of aircraft are operating from Espiritu Santo, launching reconnaissance, escort, and strike missions deep into the Solomon Islands. Yet, remarkably, for months, the Japanese remain unaware of the base's full scale. The key to this success lies not only in concealment, but also in misdirection. Along the island's southern coast, the Seabees construct dummy roads, false vehicle tracks, and decoy airstrips made of painted tarpaulins to mislead enemy spotters. Wooden mock-ups of trucks and fuel tanks are placed in clearings to divert attention from the real installations. When Japanese reconnaissance photographs are later recovered after the war, analysts confirm that the deception held. The aerial images taken in late 1942 still showed Espiritu Santo as unoccupied, hidden beneath a canopy of palms. One of the Pacific's most important air bases had been built in silence. The jungle had become an ally. The steady hum of Pratt and Whitney engines echoes faintly across the jungle. Beneath a screen of palm leaves, U.S. Navy mechanics crouch beside a row of F-4F Wildcats, carefully checking fuel lines and ammunition belts. Above them, the canopy sways gently in the trade wind, so thick and uniform that from 1,000 feet, it looks like untouched rainforest. This is Turtle Bay Airfield, one of the most ingeniously concealed air bases of the Second World War. To the Japanese, Espiritu Santo is little more than a supply island, if it exists in their war maps at all. But to Admiral William F. Halsey and the Allied South Pacific Command, it is now the beating heart of operations in the Solomons. Every air raid on Guadalcanal, every long-range patrol toward Rabaul, begins here. The U.S. Navy Seabees have done more than just build. They have outwitted the enemy's eyes. A system of camouflage nets, locally woven mats, and coconut fronds covers every hangar, tent, and fuel dump. Each net is positioned at an angle to match the sun's direction and shadow pattern, a detail guided by the U.S. Navy Bureau of Yards and Docks Camouflage Section, drawing on lessons learned from North African and British field manuals. Even aircraft taxi routes are designed with deception in mind. Rather than straight, obvious paths, they curve irregularly through the trees. The Seabees scatter crushed coral dust and sand across nearby clearings to mask the sheen of tire marks. One of the Seabees foremen, Chief Machinist's mate E.C. Hanlon, later recalled in post-war interviews that we built that field as if it were part of the jungle itself, and made sure it looked like nothing from above. At night, blackout orders are absolute. No lights are permitted after dusk. Even cigarettes are shielded by metal cups. When aircraft take off in darkness, crews use low-intensity lamps hidden inside drums, pointing toward the ground. Visible only from cockpit level, every precaution pays off. Japanese Mitsubishi G4M Betty reconnaissance flights continue to pass over the region, but none detect the new base. On several occasions, Allied radar operators at Santo pick up signals of enemy aircraft passing within 20 miles, yet no attack ever follows. The camouflage and concealment detachment assigned to the island continually refines their methods. They collaborate with U.S. Army Air Force's photographic interpreters, comparing test photographs from low-flying planes to ensure nothing stands out. From 5,000 feet, even the shimmering reflection of parked aircraft could give away the position. So crews cover canopies with darkened netting during the day. At BY November 1942, Espiritu Santo's facilities rival those of any forward base in the Pacific. The island now hosts multiple airstrips, Pelliculo, Turtle Bay, and Luganville, along with extensive docks, hospitals, and fuel farms. Yet from the air, all of it still resembles wilderness. A key addition is the Pelliculo Bay Air Depot, a repair and overhaul center built under thick camouflage netting. Here, Seabees and Navy engineers maintain dozens of aircraft each week. Engines stripped, wings replaced, fuselages patched, all beneath the same palm canopy that conceals everything else. AS Guadalcanal rages. Allied aircraft use Santo as their launch pad for supply and strike missions. Douglas R-4DS carry spare parts and medical teams north, consolidated PBY Catalinas depart at dusk on long-range patrols. By the time the Japanese realize that their convoys to Guadalcanal are being intercepted with increasing precision, the hidden base at Santo has already changed the course of the campaign. Espiritu Santo becomes one of the busiest unseen hubs of the Pacific. In a single month, more than 1,200 takeoffs and landings are logged. Yet none of this activity is reported in Japanese intelligence summaries. The secrecy extends beyond the island itself. Crews are forbidden from mentioning Santo in correspondence or diaries. Mail is censored. Supply ships delivering equipment refer to their destination only as Advance Base 009. While the base grows, the surrounding community of native Vanuatu laborers assists under U.S. supervision, helping move materials and plant additional vegetation to replace what has been cleared. Their work, too, contributes to the illusion, living camouflage that keeps the base invisible. On November 11, 1942, the base receives its most important visitors. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, arrives for inspection. Nimitz is escorted through narrow, shaded trails until the canopy opens just enough to reveal an entire runway, hangars, and aircraft hidden beneath a green ceiling of palms. Impressed, he remarks that it is a model for future bases. From that moment, the Espiritu Santo method, as it later becomes known, is incorporated into standard Pacific theater construction doctrine. Future bases at Efate, Guadalcanal, Bougainville, and Manus will all use similar natural camouflage techniques. By December, as the Battle of Guadalcanal reaches its decisive phase, aircraft from Espiritu Santo play a crucial supporting role. From its secret runways, U.S. Navy and Marine bombers launch raids against Munda, Bin, and Rabaul. Supply aircraft deliver ammunition, fuel, and rations directly to Henderson Field, enabling the Cactus Air Force to keep flying despite relentless Japanese pressure. All of it, every sortie, every shipment, owes its success to the secrecy preserved by those palm-covered runways. For the Japanese, Espiritu Santo remains a blank space on the map, a silent island that, to them, seems untouched. But beneath that silence lies the hum of engines, the clatter of wrenches, and the quiet ingenuity that will soon carry the Allies northward, toward victory in the Solomons. January 1943. Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides. The new year dawns with the sound of distant surf on coral reefs and the low thunder of engines buried beneath a sea of green. In the heart of the Pacific, the concealed airfields of Espiritu Santo now form one of the largest and most vital Allied logistics centers in the South Pacific, yet remain practically invisible to enemy reconnaissance. Since its inception in mid-1942, the base has expanded beyond all early expectations. Under the direction of the U.S. Naval Construction Battalions, Seabees, including the 7th, 15th, 20th, and 40th Battalions, Santo has become a logistical masterpiece of secrecy and efficiency. The island now hosts an intricate network of camouflaged runways, fuel depots, ammunition magazines, and repair hangars, all shielded by natural vegetation and artificial nets. Between Peliculo Bay and Luganville, the Seabees construct hidden roads lined with trees, their routes invisible to aerial observers. Even fuel pipelines are buried beneath sand and palm roots to conceal the base's true capacity. Aerial photos taken by U.S. reconnaissance aircraft confirm the deception's success. When the images are analyzed at Pearl Harbor's Photographic Intelligence Center, the camouflaged fields blend seamlessly with their surroundings. Only by tracing the faint glint of a propeller or the unusual texture of palm fronds can experts discern the hidden installations. Within the base perimeter, activity never ceases. Marine Aircraft Group 11, Navy Patrol Squadrons, VP, and U.S. Army Air Force's transport units share the hidden airstrips. The roar of B-24 Liberators mixes with the lighter hum of C-47 Skitrans and SPD Dauntless dive bombers. Each day, aircraft depart north toward Guadalcanal, Munda, and Bougainville, carrying supplies, fuel, and reinforcements for the ongoing campaign. The once remote island has become an operational springboard, what Admiral Halsey calls the unsinkable carrier. At the heart of Espiritu Santo's invisibility is the Naval Camouflage Section, a specialized group working with engineers from the Bureau of Yards and Docks. Their methods combine military precision with local ingenuity. Coconut palms are transplanted around the airfields to replace those cleared for construction. Canvas nets woven from core fiber, a material made from coconut husks, are layered with living vines and palm leaves, blending the artificial with the organic. Maintenance crews repaint exposed metal surfaces in matte olive green and cover aircraft wings with netted sheeting between sorties. Camouflage teams study the direction of sunlight and shadow each day, adjusting coverings to maintain a consistent natural look. Perhaps the most remarkable innovation is the use of mobile camouflage units, light wooden frames that can be quickly erected over parked planes, forming portable mini-jungles. These allow mechanics to service aircraft without revealing movement from above. By February 1943, the Naval Air Transport Service, NATS, establishes a permanent detachment on the island. The base becomes the primary transit hub for the R-4D, R-5D, and PB-4Y aircraft that connect the entire South Pacific network. Cargo shipments are coordinated through a concealed operations center built beneath natural overhangs and palm groves, known informally as the Underground Tower. The base's radio operations, maintained by Naval Communications Station Espiritu Santo, remain strictly silent during daylight hours to avoid detection by Japanese signal intercepts. At night, coded transmissions relay flight plans and convoy routes to Noumea and Pearl Harbor. Meanwhile, at Paliculo Bay, the Seabees build a massive ship repair dock, a floating dry dock, camouflaged under suspended netting, capable of servicing destroyers, transports, and PT boats. It is here that Lieutenant Commander John D. Bulkeley, commander of Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 3, brings his PT boats for maintenance after operations near Guadalcanal. The hidden airfield and harbor form a unified lifeline. From Espiritu Santo, fuel convoys move north. Wounded men return south for recovery. Supply ships unload under cover of palm shelters, their presence hidden even from orbiting reconnaissance planes. Throughout early 1943, Japanese intelligence remains unaware of Espiritu Santo's true role. Aerial photos recovered after the war show that Japanese analysts marked the island simply as light Allied activity, with no indication of major airfields or depots. In reality, over 30,000 personnel, Navy, Marine, and Army, operate from the island by mid-1943. It houses hospitals, workshops, barracks, and even entertainment facilities, all cleverly concealed. While Rabal's reconnaissance units continue scanning the Coral Sea, their focus remains on Guadalcanal and New Caledonia. The Americans' deception works perfectly. By keeping Santo invisible, the Allies shield their supply chain and maintain strategic surprise. The operations launched from the hidden airfields directly influenced the final stages of the Guadalcanal campaign. In January 1943, bombers from Espiritu Santo strike enemy shipping near Columbangra and Shortland Islands, disrupting Japan's ability to reinforce its garrison. When Japanese forces begin evacuating Guadalcanal under the cover of night, Operation Coup, February 1943, reconnaissance aircraft from Espiritu Santo spot withdrawal convoys, enabling Allied interception efforts. By March, Guadalcanal is declared secure. The success is due not only to the valor of those who fought there, but also to the logistical foundation built under the palms of Santo. After Guadalcanal, Espiritu Santo becomes the forward staging area for the Allied drive through the Solomons. The base expands to support operations in New Georgia, Bougainville, and eventually the Bismarck Archipelago. Even as new runways are added, camouflage remains central to its survival. The U.S. Navy maintains the cover long after the threat of air attack diminishes, a testament to how deception had once preserved victory. Through ingenuity and secrecy, the Americans turned a quiet Pacific island into a hidden fortress, one that never appeared on Japanese maps. yet shaped the outcome of the South Pacific War. June 1943. Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides. The midday sun filters through 1,000 layers of green, scattering light onto rows of neatly parked aircraft barely visible beneath the palm canopy. To an untrained eye, it looks like a dense forest, but beneath the natural ceiling lies one of the most important Allied strongholds of the Pacific War. Espiritu Santo has now become the nerve center of Operation Cartwheel, the multi-pronged Allied offensive to isolate Rabaul, Japan's major fortress in the South Pacific. From its hidden runways, bombers, transports, and patrol planes depart daily toward the Solomon Islands and New Guinea. Though still officially classified as Advanced Base 009, Santo is, in every respect, a floating aircraft carrier anchored to the jungle. Under Commander Frank J. Fletcher's South Pacific Command structure, the facilities at Santo grow even more complex. The 15th Naval Construction Battalion completes new fuel storage tanks dug into hillsides and covered with soil and foliage. Over 200,000 barrels of aviation fuel are now hidden underground, connected to runways by buried pipelines. Nearby, the U.S. Army's 4th General Hospital, run by the Medical Corps, operates under the shade of giant banyan trees, its wards dispersed and camouflaged to appear like scattered village huts. Patients recovering from malaria, exhaustion, and tropical disease rest in canvas shelters under the soft hum of fans powered by concealed generators that eye in the harbor. Seguin Channel becomes a hive of silent activity. The channel hosts PT boats, Liberty ships, destroyers, and floating dry docks, all covered with nets strung between tall coconut trees on the shore. From above, the water reflects nothing but the green of the forest edge. From the Paliculo and Turtle Bay airfields, Allied air power flows continuously northward. B. 24 liberators of the 5th Bomb Group, Marine SBD Dauntless, and Navy PV. 1 Ventures use Santo as their forward base before staging through the newly captured Munda and Rendova airfields. Each morning, the quiet of the jungle breaks as the camouflaged nets are rolled back and squadrons of aircraft taxi out one by one. Their engines rise in perfect synchronization, a sound that signals the next step of the Allied advance. Among the units stationed here are Marine Air Group 11, Marine Air Group 14, and Navy Patrol Squadron VP 54, flying long reconnaissance arcs deep into the Bismarck Sea. Many of the pilots who fought at Guadalcanal now rest and refit here, including Major Joe Foss, awarded the Medal of Honor for his aerial victories earlier that year. When the aircraft return, ground crews roll the nets back into place. Within minutes, the jungle swallows every sign of activity. On the other side of the war, Japanese intelligence officers at Rabaul's 11th Air Fleet headquarters continue to rely on aerial reconnaissance to chart Allied expansion. Pilots of the Yokohama Air Group, flying G-4M Betty bombers converted for reconnaissance, report numerous new airfields in the Solomons, but none at Espiritu Santo. Captured post-war records reveal that Japanese analysts believe the nearest major Allied base south of Guadalcanal to be at Ifata, nearly 350 miles away. Espiritu Santo, by then hosting tens of thousands of personnel and over 1,000 aircraft, did not appear in their assessments. That intelligence blind spot gave the Allies a priceless advantage. The hidden base allowed for uninterrupted reinforcement, refueling, and repair operations without fear of major air raids. Unlike Guadalcanal or Munda, Santo never suffered an attack during the entire war. Despite the intense workload, daily life on Espiritu Santo developed a rhythm. Navy cooks served meals in open-air mess halls shaded by palm fronds. Chaplains held Sunday services beside camouflage chapels built from local timber. The Seabees, always industrious, constructed makeshift movie screens where film reels from the U.S. could be shown at night, light carefully shielded by layered tarps. Mail ships from San Francisco and Noumea arrived regularly, carrying letters, newspapers, and care packages that brought reminders of home. On the beaches, Marines swam during rare breaks in duty, always under orders to stay within marked safe zones due to reef currents. For the local and Vanuatu communities, the sudden influx of tens of thousands of Americans transformed daily life. The U.S. Navy employed many local laborers in construction, supply transport, and agriculture. Payment often came in the form of goods, soap, fabric, and canned food, which later became valuable commodities across the islands. In mid-1943, aircraft from Espiritu Santo played a decisive role in the aerial offensive against Rabaul, the heavily fortified Japanese base on New Britain. B-24 Liberators and B-25 Mitchells, operating under General George C. Kenney's 5th Air Force, used Santo as a refueling and repair base before striking north through Port Moresby and Dobadura. These coordinated operations marked the beginning of Japan's gradual loss of control in the South Pacific. By late 1943, Allied forces were already advancing toward Bougainville and the Bismarck Archipelago. Behind every successful raid stood the quiet, unseen infrastructure of Espiritu Santo, the fortress the enemy could not find. Recognizing its success, the U.S. Navy issued a detailed after-action report through the Bureau of Yards and Docks in late 1943, officially titled Camouflage Practices and Concealment in the South Pacific Area. Espiritu Santo was cited as a model installation, praised for its complete visual deception through integration with tropical vegetation. This doctrine would later guide similar construction at Manus Island, Bougainville, and Ulithi, ensuring that every major Allied base built thereafter used natural cover as part of its defensive design. By the close of 1943, the island had grown into one of the largest naval complexes in the world, rivaling even Pearl Harbor in scale, yet still largely hidden under its green canopy. The palm-shaded airfields that once guarded secrecy would soon become launch points for the final Pacific offensives that would carry the Allies toward the Philippines and beyond. August 1944. Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides. By now, the once secret jungle fortress hums with an organized calm. The thunder of departing aircraft is less frequent. The tide of the war has shifted far to the north, toward the Marianas, Leyte, and Okinawa. The airfields that once hid beneath Espiritu Santo's canopy have served their purpose. They sustained the Allied drive across the Pacific while remaining almost completely invisible to the enemy. Yet, even in the war's later stages, the island remains a crucial link. Ships en route to the Central Pacific stop here to refuel and resupply. Damaged aircraft limp back from distant missions to land safely on its coral runways. The Seabees continue to maintain the camouflage network, though by now, the risk of Japanese reconnaissance has all but vanished. At its peak in late 1944, Espiritu Santo supports over 100,000 U.S. military personnel, including Navy, Marine, Army, and Air Force units. The once isolated island now hosts a bustling infrastructure, 3 major airstrips, a deep-water port, fuel depots, hospitals, machine shops, and barracks, all built under cover of vegetation. Despite this immense presence, Espiritu Santo remains largely invisible to enemy intelligence throughout the entire war. When Japanese military archives were reviewed after 1945, analysts discovered that Espiritu Santo had been recorded in reconnaissance logs only 3 times, each described as unoccupied or of minor importance. The deception had endured from the first Seabee bulldozer in August 1942 to the war's final months. The base's contributions to Operation Cartwheel, the Allied plan to isolate Rabaul, were profound. Aircraft from Santo supported bombing campaigns over Bougainville, Caving, and New Ireland, while transport squadrons ferried troops and supplies that built the stepping stones of the Allied advance. When General Douglas MacArthur and Admiral Chester W. Nimitz coordinated their converging offensives toward the Philippines, Santo's hidden network became a staging and logistics center that quietly underpinned both commands. By early 1944, the Allies no longer needed to fear long-range Japanese reconnaissance. Yet, the camouflage stayed. The green nets, palm fronds, and false roads that once fooled the enemy had become part of the island's identity. a living monument to the ingenuity of the Seabees and the quiet art of military deception. When the war ended in August 1945, Espiritu Santo was one of the largest remaining Allied bases in the Pacific. But with Japan's surrender, its purpose faded quickly. The airfields at Turtle Bay and Paliculo fell silent. The endless traffic of C-47s, Liberators, and Catalinas ceased. Warehouses once stocked with fuel and ammunition were emptied, and Navy construction units began dismantling or abandoning what could not be shipped home. Thousands of surplus vehicles, aircraft, and supplies, too costly to transport back to the United States, were gathered at a site near Luganville and deliberately buried or scuttled offshore. Locals would later call it the $1,000,000 point. Even today, its remains rest beneath the waters, a coral-covered reminder of the Pacific's wartime logistics machine. In the years that followed, Espiritu Santo returned to the quiet rhythm it had known before the war. The jungle reclaimed much of what the Seabees had built. Trees grew through the concrete runways, and the sounds of birds replaced the roar of engines. Yet, traces of the hidden base remained. Visitors walking the old airstrips could still find fragments of crushed coral runway beneath the soil. Concrete bunkers, once disguised by palm leaves, stood covered in moss. Local communities, who had lived and worked alongside American personnel, preserved stories of the years when the jungle itself became a shield. The U.S. Navy's wartime engineering reports later cited Espiritu Santo as an unprecedented example of environmental camouflage and operational secrecy. The success of the project demonstrated that, in modern warfare, control of information and visibility could be as decisive as firepower. For the naval construction battalions, the achievements on Espiritu Santo became a defining chapter in their history. Their motto, "We build, we fight," had never been truer. Against tropical weather, logistical hardship, and constant threat of discovery, they built an entire city under the jungle's roof and managed to keep it invisible. Post-war analysis by the U.S. Naval War College confirmed that the Japanese had never successfully identified Espiritu Santo's full scope. In aerial photos recovered from Rabaul and Truk, the base appeared as little more than a blur of green and shadow. The deception not only protected the base, but also safeguarded the critical flow of aircraft, ships, and supplies that supported every major offensive in the South Pacific. Today, Espiritu Santo stands as one of the best documented examples of large-scale military camouflage in history. It demonstrated that success in warfare often depended on patience, concealment, and the intelligent use of terrain. It was not the largest base of World War II, nor the most famous, but few were more essential or better hidden. The island that once vanished beneath its own canopy helped the Allies turn the tide in the Pacific. Its story endures as a testament to the quiet ingenuity of those who built without being seen, fought without being detected, and won without the enemy ever realizing where the power came from. Beneath the palms of Espiritu Santo, the jungle itself became the strongest armor of all.